What is up, YouTube? Johnny B here again, and we're gonna be doing another lowering springs video. Looks like that's the theme with expensive cars. You want them to get a little bit lower. You don't want to delete all the fancy brand new suspension, but you do want to get that low. Lowering springs is the way to go. It's gonna be your daily driver. You want it to be comfortable. You don't want to be deleting none of the factory electronics. Like for example, on this car, it has active suspension, and you need to save that. You want to keep the value, you want to keep that. You don't need to go to coilover, so you're not going to be tracking the car. It's going to be a daily, but you do want it to look better and handle a little bit better. That's the way to go. That's what we're going to be doing today on Saucedale's F80. He has his own YouTube channel, so we'll link that down below, and his Instagram if you guys want to see his progress with the car. So far he got it, it's tuned, making like 560 wheels, 600 torque. He did this nice little like carbon fiber front lip, and then he had the dealership clear bra the whole front end, even the carbon lip, so that's super nice. That's going to help his bumper stay rock chip free, and it's going to be looking good. So once we do this lowering spring, it's going to look even better. First, we're going to lift up the hood and see what's underneath this thing. Look at that. I looked up a little bit of information. We're going to need to remove some of these rubbers, unclip the active suspension, remove this front strut brace. It has another like aluminum one that goes towards the back. It's just, this thing's all braced up from factory. You don't really need to add much to these cars because you already paid for it in the sticker price, right? Obviously you want to raise it first. It has like special spots for that. We're going to take off the wheels. They're 17 millimeters, and then we're going to go ahead and take apart the whole front strut assembly, do them together. That way it's just like the same thing on one side as it is on the other side. I believe on the driver's side there is a headlight leveling thing that you need to do. That's like the only extra bit, but other than that, everything else should be pretty straightforward. So here's the wheel. These are all 17s. This one looked a little bit funny, but I looked in the glove box and we found out that it's a lock. Obviously you want to protect your M wheels from getting stolen, so that's gonna be something that is needed. So cool to see that this car has that. So we got the wheels off. We're taking all of them off since the car is on the lift. Might as well just remove them since we're gonna be doing the rears as well. Next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and take off these clips here. They are easier to remove with like this little clip remover. Just kind of get it in there. I'm using the plastic ones to make sure I don't damage them. You could also probably use like a flathead to take off these little clips that are holding on. It's a little rubber piece right here. And then another thing, this is the connector for the active suspension. So you just want to go ahead and get under that and pop it right off. And then you can disconnect it. That. So now that we got this plastic cover removed, now we have to go ahead and remove this one because this whole strut brace needs to come off as well. The only reason it needs to come off is because on this side, two of these bolts are actually underneath the strut brace, and if those weren't there, they wouldn't need to come off, and that should enable us to just pop this off. Look at that. And now we have access. Ooh, look at that. Good thing we did that. That bolt is loose. That's going to need to be tightened down, but we're going to be removing it as well anyways because this whole carbon piece is going to come off, and so is this whole aluminum piece because they're in the way for this, so they need to come off. So we're taking off all the bolts for this. It's using a 13 millimeter for all of these. There's 4 on each side, and I believe there's one 10 millimeter that's holding up here, this like coolant reservoir. You don't want to yank that off thinking that you got everything off. So to remove this brace, we need to go ahead and remove all of these Torx bits. I have a socket here that says it's an E12. You can see it looks exactly the same. Fits right into everything. This one is a different one, so this one must be the next size up. So it looks like we're gonna need 2 different Torx bits. And then since these are also, I measured them out, they're 16. This back middle part is 16 as well. This is a E14. Perfect. There's a 10 millimeter on the driver's side that's also bolted to this coolant reservoir, so you're gonna go ahead and remove that because it's holding onto that bracket. Go ahead and remove it. Now we have full access to these 2 bolts. Before we touch this, you can see this car has 28,000 miles, and that's probably been how long it's been since they've cleaned these rotors and the struts. So to keep our hands a little bit clean, we're gonna go ahead and clean these up and leave them super clean. This is gonna be the degreaser we're gonna be using, so that way we can make this look nice. It's gonna be nice because it's easier for us to work on. Our hands won't get black, and then the customer is going to be happy that we actually cleaned his calipers, and it's going to look much nicer. That way when it's low, you take some pictures, this is going to be looking nice and bright. This is a cool like little degreaser in a can that kind of like foams it up, and it'll get everything, you know, nice and clean. Get it around the spots where we're going to do this. We'll let that soak a little bit, and then we'll wipe it down. So now that I got it all cleaned up, it's not only is it looking better, but now my hands aren't gonna be turning black. It's gonna be a cleaner job. I went ahead and removed this bottom bolt that's holding on the strut. So it's a 16 on this side and a 16 on this side for the nut. Then we're gonna be using a 16 for this sway bar end link as well. But that, you know, removing that let me remove this bracket, which is the bracket that's holding everything in place. This little electronic piece here too, we're gonna have to unclip that. And then it's gonna be fully disconnected from under here, and then we can go ahead and unbolt it from the top. With the bolts loose, you wanna make sure you kind of hold on to the spring as you loosen it so it doesn't just smack down. And then you can actually push down the arm and kind of like pull this out, and you can fully get it out without physically removing it from the hub just yet. So now we're gonna need to go ahead and pry that section that I was telling you about. Just kind of stick a pry bar in there, and then this should just pull right out. So I'll let you hold the strut, and I'll go ahead and kind of pry this open. If you wiggle it around, you should be able to like pull it out. There we go. So you're gonna wanna use spring compressors for the spring to keep it safe. We went ahead and removed the strut from the spring from the top hat. The bolt that you're gonna be using is this, it's like an 18mm 12-point bit. And then now we're gonna replace this spring with the new springs that are in here. Motion suspension components. We got one of them done. It was way simpler because we didn't even need to use the spring compressors. That just kind of like sits in there. You want it to line up with where it ends, and you can see it fits in there perfectly. You want the letters to be the right way up, and then if you look at the markings where it ends, you just line those up on the actual spring, and that's gonna work out perfectly for you. You're gonna want to make sure you leave the bump stop in there. Didn't see any information on actually cutting the bump stop. This is meant to like work with the factory stuff. So we're gonna leave it like that. We got them on. They're literally just like put in. So I used the same pry bar method to get these back in. They have a little slit on the back of the strut that lines up perfectly where it needs to go. That way you never put it on wrong. And then on top, it has these little like guides on both ends that help you kind of like line it up to make sure that you put it in the correct spot. And then you can see all your bolt holes are lining up, making it that much easier to do. Now we're in the back. So if you're on the floor, you can use a regular jack, but since I'm on the lift, I'm gonna be using a transmission jack to lift up this arm. These two bolts are gonna get removed, and with this coming down, we should be able to get the spring completely off. This one won't get removed. That one's gonna stay on there. We can pressure it enough. This is a camber bolt though, so you can see how it has its markings already. I'm just gonna put another mark there. That way we can put it back and the camber won't be off. This bolt is fine. This one's just like a straight shot to the strut. So that's nothing special. So let's go ahead and mark the other side now, and then we can go ahead and loosen everything up. Since we're back here now, we're gonna go ahead and clean up these calipers and wipe down the arms around this spot, even though they're not that dirty, but we want these to look nice and shiny. Got the measurements for this. These are 18, so you got an 18 bolt with an 18 nut on the back, and then you have a 21mm head on both ends, and it's got a nut in the back you're gonna be using to remove that. So let's go ahead and remove these two and remove the ones from the other side, and then we should be able to get the spring out. Got the bolts out. You can see stuff is moving around. I'm bringing the jack slowly down, and that's gonna help relieve the pressure or the tension from the spring. There you go. Completely loose. So now I'm gonna go ahead and remove the trans jack. Perfect. Went ahead and removed the plastic bits off of the old spring, throw them on the new spring. And then there's also a spacer that comes in here that we're gonna be needing to put on the top of this. That's gonna be going on the car as well, because these are meant for both the M4 and the M3s, but the M3s need that spacer, whereas the M4s don't. So there's like a little metal hat that goes there, and I went ahead and took it off, and I put the spacer right on top. That's where it goes. If you were to put it on the bottom, it would just make the spring fall off. So put it up here, fits perfectly, and it's gonna stay in place as well. We'll go here and that's how it goes. So let's go ahead and put the spring on now and then bolt this all up. What I'm doing here is I'm actually using the transmission jack to kind of force the whole suspension upwards. That way, this is going to be like when the car's just not naturally sitting. And we're going to go ahead and tighten these, because if you don't do that and you tighten them when it's like fully loose, you could rip the bushings, or the bushings aren't going to last as long. One of the noticeable things is that it has like a little rubber piece that kind of sticks through the arm. If that's not sticking through, then you know you didn't line it up perfectly. Spacers on top, looking good. So now we're going to go ahead and tighten this side, and then we're going to hit the other side next. So here we are. Now, with the lowering, the lip is so much more lower to the ground. He's gonna have to be extra careful with that carbon lip to not rip it off. But fitment is looking spot on. Just to show you a little bit of a difference in how low the car is now. I didn't need to put any 2x4s, but now I'm having to put a bunch of 2x4s just to clear that front lip to get the car out of the driveway. Look at that. All that is just barely clear the front lip. It's gonna be quite the pain driving this thing as a daily, but it looks good. So here it is, fully settled down. I drove it around just to make sure nothing was loose, and look at that. Lines up perfectly with the tire right at the top of it. And then we have the rears. Just do the same thing. That looks like they're like right on it as well. Now, car will probably need like a little bit of spacer, but it's not bad. The stock fitment is not bad at all. Car is looking amazing. Look at that. So now we wait for the owner to come pick it up. So I have Abel here with me. He's the owner to this beautiful M3. We got it all done, and what do you think?
Honestly, I love it. Like I said in all my YouTube videos so far, which is only one, I hate wheel gaps, and honestly, going with the EMD suspension, the lowering spring suspension, yeah. We literally went down 1.3 inches in the front and then 0.3 in the back, which is literally the perfect fitment. And like I said earlier, the spring rate's close, if not basically stock, so I don't lose any of the feeling, and I still have my adaptive suspension, so it's huge. On top of that, he hooked it up and did a little bit of brake cleaning on there. I totally didn't ask for it.
They saw that in the video.
But yeah, I'm super happy. If you need any work done, definitely go to Jonny. He will hook it up.
Yeah, the car looks amazing. I'm sure it's gonna handle a lot better now. You just gotta really be careful with that front lip, because they saw it on the video where we were having a hard time taking it out. But the car's looking amazing. He has an Instagram, Sawstel_F80, if you guys want to go follow him on Instagram and see the progress of the build. And he also has a YouTube channel. He's barely starting off with the YouTube channel, so go show him some love.
It's just gonna be Sawstel.
Yeah, Sawstel.
Yeah.
So you want to spell it out for them just in case?
Yeah, SAUCEDALE, Sawstel.
Yeah, I'll leave a link down below in the description anyways, just so you guys can just kind of click it. But yeah, car's looking good.
Super happy with it, man. Super happy.
He's got a lot more mods to do to it, and it's a gorgeous car. I really like it. I'm not a fan of the German cars, but this is one of the cars that, you know, I wouldn't mind. And it looks like a gorgeous car.
You gotta do it right. That's the trick.
Yeah. All right, guys. So see you guys next time in the next video. We're just gonna show you a video clip of you maybe just like taking off if you want to make some noise. Yeah, that way they get to hear it, because it's got an upgraded M Performance exhaust, so that's gonna sound good. All right, Abel.
Alrighty, Jonny.
We'll see you around.
Good to see you too. Thank you again.